30 minutes. That's what you have. Not 30 minutes to pack a bag and feel good about your choices. Not 30 minutes to call your sister or say a prayer or update your will. 30 minutes before a nuclear device detonates 2 miles from where you're standing right now, and everything within that radius becomes a physics demonstration you do not want to attend. 2 miles. That sounds like distance. It sounds survivable. And it is, but only if you make the right call in the next 30 seconds. Because what you do in the first minute determines whether you're one of the people who walks away from this, or one of the people who becomes a cautionary infographic on a government emergency preparedness website. So let's talk about what happens at 2 miles when a nuclear weapon goes off. And more importantly, what you need to do right now, before the clock runs out. First, let's understand what you're actually up against, because fear without information is just panic, and panic kills faster than radiation. A nuclear detonation produces several distinct kill zones, and at 2 miles, you're sitting right on the edge of the moderate overpressure zone for a typical tactical or city-targeting weapon. The fireball itself won't reach you. Good news. But the blast wave will, and so will the thermal pulse, which is the wave of superheated light and infrared radiation that travels at the speed of light and arrives well before you hear anything. If you're outside and you're looking in the general direction of the detonation when it happens, that thermal pulse will give you severe burns on any exposed skin in a fraction of a second. At 2 miles, you won't be vaporized, but you will be in serious trouble if you're standing outside doing nothing. This is why what you do in the next 30 minutes is everything. The first question you have to answer, the one that splits all of your options like a fork in the road, is this: can you get out of range in 30 minutes? Or are you stuck? Because the two scenarios demand completely different responses, and choosing the wrong one is how people die. Let's start with the scenario where you can move. If you have a vehicle, if the roads aren't already gridlocked, if you have access to your car and you are not in a dense urban core where traffic has already become a parking lot, then your job is simple. Get out fast and get out in a direction that puts maximum distance between you and ground zero. You don't need to be a genius about the direction. Move perpendicular to the wind if you know which way it's blowing, because that's how you minimize your exposure to fallout, which arrives after the detonation and drifts like a slow-moving poison cloud. At 60 miles per hour, in 30 minutes, you can put 30 miles between yourself and the detonation. At 30 miles from a standard weapon, your risk drops dramatically. You're not out of danger forever, but you're out of the immediate kill probability and well outside the worst of the initial fallout plume. Take your go bag if it's within arm's reach. Important documents if they're already somewhere accessible. Your pets, if getting them takes under 60 seconds. And then you drive. You don't stop to fill the tank. You don't swing by to pick up a friend who isn't already with you. You don't go back for anything. You go, and you go as hard and as fast as the road will let you, putting miles between yourself and a detonation that is by this point less than 30 minutes away. Keep the car windows up. Keep the ventilation on recirculate if you know how to switch it. If the bomb goes off while you're still driving, you'll know immediately because there will be a flash, a light so bright and so wrong that your entire body will understand before your brain does. If you see it, look away. Keep your eyes on the road. The car's metal shell provides meaningful protection against the thermal pulse. Don't panic, don't stop, don't look back. Keep driving. But here is where most people get it wrong. Here is the mistake that kills the ones who had every opportunity to survive. Most people, faced with a gridlocked highway and 30 minutes on the clock, will sit in traffic and hope the situation resolves itself. They'll inch forward, they'll honk, they'll stay in the car because the car feels like protection, like control, like doing something. And then the clock runs out and they're sitting in a metal box on an elevated highway with no shielding, no shelter, and 2 miles of open air between them and the fireball. If traffic is moving, drive. If traffic is not moving, if you are sitting still after 5 minutes on the road, you need to make an immediate decision to abandon the vehicle and go vertical or go underground. Because the second scenario, shelter in place, is not a failure condition. Done correctly, it is the option that keeps you alive when getting out is impossible. Going underground is the move. This is not opinion. This is physics. A nuclear detonation produces several categories of lethal output: the blast overpressure, the thermal radiation, the initial nuclear radiation, and then fallout, which arrives later and persists. Underground shelter defeats or significantly reduces all of these. The Earth itself is the best radiation shield available to you at this moment. Concrete, steel, and mass absorb gamma radiation, neutron flux, and blast pressure in ways that wood frame houses simply cannot. When you go underground, you are putting material between your body and the energy that wants to destroy it. So where do you go? You look for the deepest, most structurally substantial underground space available to you. In a city, that means a subway system if one exists. A full subway tunnel, especially one at depth, provides exceptional shielding. The reinforced concrete, the depth below street level, the mass of material above you, all of it works in your favor. If there's a subway station within a few minutes running distance, that is where you go. You go to the deepest part of it. You don't stand near the entrance. You don't hover by the stairs. You go as far in and as far down as the tunnel allows, and you get small, and you wait. If there's no subway, you look for a parking garage, but not the top levels, the bottom. The lowest subterranean level of a multi-story concrete parking structure gives you concrete overhead and on all sides. Not ideal, but functional. The mass above you absorbs radiation. The walls deflect overpressure. If there's no parking garage, look for large public buildings with deep basements. Government buildings, hospitals, libraries, museums, these are typically built with substantial foundations and subterranean levels. A deep basement in a concrete or brick building is vastly better than a wood frame house. A wood frame house offers almost nothing against the initial effects of a nuclear detonation at 2 miles. It will stop neither the thermal pulse nor the blast wave effectively. Underground is the word. Underground is the answer. And if you genuinely cannot get underground, if you are in a suburb, a rural area, a neighborhood with no basements, no deep structures, nothing, then you find the most interior, most structurally reinforced space you can access. Not an exterior room, not a room with windows. The center of the building, as far from exterior walls as possible, surrounded by as many layers of material as you can get between yourself and the outside world. A bathroom with no windows in the interior of a building is better than a bedroom on the exterior wall. A stairwell core is better than an open floor plan. You are trying to put mass between yourself and the event. Every wall, every layer, every inch of concrete or brick or earth is working in your favor. Now let's talk about the timing problem. Because 30 minutes sounds like a lot until you realize how quickly decision-making time collapses under stress. If you're reading this for the first time right now, in a hypothetical, it feels manageable. In reality, with sirens going, with your phone blowing up, with people around you screaming and running in conflicting directions, your cognitive load is going to spike hard. This is why you need to make the key decisions right now, in advance, before you ever need them. The decision tree is this: if I can drive and traffic is moving, I drive out. If I cannot drive, or traffic is gridlocked, I go underground by the most direct route. If I cannot go underground, I go to the most interior, lowest, most shielded space available. I make this call in the first 2 minutes, and I commit. I don't second-guess it mid-execution. I go. Now assume the detonation happens while you are sheltered. Here is what occurs. The light arrives first, at the speed of light, which means you will have essentially no warning before it hits. If you are underground, this doesn't matter. You're shielded. If you are in a building, the light will come through any uncovered windows and cause flash burns on anything it touches. This is why windows are the enemy in those last moments. Heavy curtains, interior walls, furniture stacked against glass. All of it reduces your exposure to the thermal pulse. The blast wave arrives next. The delay between the light and the arrival of the blast wave gives you a rough indication of distance if you have no other reference. Roughly 5 seconds of delay per mile of distance from the detonation. At 2 miles, you're looking at a roughly 10-second window between the flash and the overpressure wave hitting your position. 10 seconds is enough time to drop to the floor, get under something solid, cover your head and neck, And open your mouth slightly, which equates pressures across your eardrums and lungs and reduces injury from the pressure differential. 10 seconds. Use them. The overpressure will pass. It's not a prolonged event. It is a wave, and it moves through. What it leaves behind is structural damage, broken glass, debris, and a building that may or may not still be sound. After the wave passes, do not immediately get up and move outside. The instinct to flee, to see what happened, to find out if people are okay. Resist it. Because what comes next is fallout. And fallout is the patient killer. Fallout is the radioactive particulate material thrown up into the atmosphere by the detonation, irradiated by the nuclear reaction, and then carried downwind and deposited on everything within a wide radius. It looks like ash. It looks like snow. It looks harmless. And it is extraordinarily dangerous. The particles themselves emit gamma radiation as they decay. And if you are outside in a fallout field, you are accumulating a radiation dose with every passing minute. The rule about fallout that the government arrived at after extensive nuclear testing is the 7-10 rule. For every 7-fold increase in time after the detonation, the radiation intensity drops by a factor of 10. This means that the first hour is by far the most dangerous. After 7 hours, the radiation outside has dropped to about 1/10 of what it was at the 1-hour mark. After 49 hours, it has dropped to 1/100th. Staying sheltered for the first 24 to 48 hours dramatically reduces your total radiation exposure in ways that cannot be overstated. People who break shelter in the first few hours and go outside to look for family members, to assess damage, to do anything, those are the people who accumulate the doses that cause acute radiation syndrome. The people who stay underground, who wait, who resist the urge to move, those are the survivors. You need to stay sheltered. You need water if you have it. You need food if you have it. You need to keep your exposure surfaces minimal. Don't eat fallout, don't breathe it in. Keep your airway covered with a cloth or mask if any particulate is entering your shelter. Any skin that's been outside during fallout should be washed with clean water as soon as possible, scrubbing gently but thoroughly without abrading the skin. You're removing particles from the surface, not trying to scrub yourself raw. If you sheltered in place, and the structure is intact, stay in the most interior part, away from exterior walls and roof, which will have the highest fallout deposition. The middle of the building, the lowest floors, remain your best options. If the structure is compromised or on fire, you may need to relocate, but move to the nearest available equivalent shelter, not into the open. Communication will likely be severely disrupted. Cell networks will be overwhelmed or damaged. Do not assume that because you cannot reach someone, something has happened to them. Conserve your phone's battery. Try emergency broadcast frequencies on any available radio. FEMA's alerting infrastructure, if it survives the event, will begin broadcasting instructions for the affected region, and those instructions will tell you when it is safe to move, where reception centers are located, and what routes to use for evacuation. Let's go back to a principle that doesn't get said enough in these discussions. The value of knowing this before the 30 minutes start. Everything I've described to you, the underground shelter, the vehicle egress decision, the 7-10 rule, the fallout behavior, the blast wave timing, all of this is information you can act on with speed and clarity if you have already thought about it. None of it is useful if you are hearing it for the first time while running and screaming through a gridlocked intersection with 30 seconds left on the clock. Preparedness is not paranoia. Preparedness is the act of making your decisions in advance while your brain is calm and rational, so that when your brain is not calm and rational, your body knows what to do anyway. Know where the nearest subway entrance is from your home. Know where the nearest building with a deep basement is from your workplace. Know which direction is downwind in your prevailing weather patterns. Keep your car's gas tank above half. Have a go bag that you can grab in 30 seconds, not 30 minutes. These are not the habits of a doomsday obsessive. These are the habits of someone who has thought about the probabilities and decided that their life is worth a modest investment of attention. The math of nuclear survival at 2 miles is actually more favorable than most people believe. The common assumption is that a nuclear detonation is a death sentence for anyone within some massive radius. And the truth is that the lethality curves of nuclear weapons drop sharply with distance and shielding. The people who die at 2 miles are mostly the ones who are outside, unshielded, in the wrong place at the wrong time. The people who survive are the ones who got underground, or got out, or made a deliberate decision in the first few minutes, and executed it without hesitation. 30 minutes is not nothing. 30 minutes, if you know what to do and you move immediately, is enough time to be somewhere meaningful. It is enough time to be deep underground. It is enough time to have 30 miles of distance if you catch a clear road. It is enough time to dramatically increase your odds of being one of the people who talks about what happened, rather than one of the people who becomes part of what happened. So the answer to the question, where do you go, is underground or away. Underground if you can't get away. Away if the road opens up. And whichever you choose it in the first 2 minutes. And you go hard. And you don't look back. Because in the post-blast world, the survivors are not the ones who froze. They are not the ones who waited for confirmation that it was really happening. They are not the ones who went home to grab one more thing, or sat in traffic hoping the situation would resolve. The survivors are the ones who understood what was coming, made a decision based on what they knew, and moved. 30 minutes is your window. Every second you spend standing still is a second you could be adding distance or depth between yourself and an event that has a very specific opinion about what happens to unshielded human bodies at 2 miles. Know your shelter points, know your exit routes, know the physics, and when the clock starts, you move.